Well, let's bring in our longtime friend, Bryn Griffths from the Outsiders podcast. His partner, Robin Brownlee, had to beg off. Bryn, I think you can handle it. How you doing, my man?
I think I'll be all right. I'm doing great. You, Rod?
I'm doing well, and what I love about you is you are a Swiss Army knife. You can talk about a lot of things and talk about them all well. Can we start with the Edmonton Oilers, if you don't mind? Because our poll question yesterday was, how do you feel about the Oilers' offseason moves? And it was like 50-50. So can you break the tie? Where are you on what Ken Holland's done here?
Well, here's the thing. What have they won in the last few years, right? They got to get into the second and the third round with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So they had to shake up. I'm going to use a term, and somebody might have to Google it if you don't know what I'm talking about. They've got an etch-a-sketch, and they got to shake it, and they have to kind of rebuild inside what they already have. And I think that they've done that. And I look forward to seeing what Kenny Holland's done. But I know one thing, the group they had wasn't getting it done. And so now they've decided to go in a little different direction. We can break that down a little further, though, if you'd like.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, Zach Hyman immediately makes their top six more dangerous. And Zach Hyman immediately makes their bottom six more dangerous because you want to talk about a Swiss Army knife. He fits that category. I really think that he's going to do something that I was kind of hoping more from Zach Kassian, for example, and that is bring it every night. Cass, from my money, did not do that and has not done that. He's a valuable member of the organization, but they needed somebody who's going to come in and basically bring his lunch bucket for every single game. I think that that's exactly what you're going to see out of Hyman, and so I think that he is a huge, huge piece of the puzzle. The problem is when you take a look at the Edmonton Oilers last season, you break down their goaltending. Did their goaltending cost them? No, not really. Their goaltending was fine last season. The problem is it was a little wildly inconsistent at times. However, look where they finished. They finished strongly in the much talked about, overrated All-Canadian division. And I also think that I don't really have as much of a problem with the goaltending as a lot of people do. I think Mike Smith had himself a hell of a year last year. He's going to have to duplicate that this year. Can he do it? Not really sure. Defensively, okay, Adam Larson walks away because he needed a change. The Edmonton Oilers offered exactly what Seattle did. I don't necessarily think that's a reflection on the team. Adam went through some really difficult times here, and I totally get him deciding to move on, and I wish him all the best. Then you have Ethan Bear, and I love the kid a lot. I got a lot of time for Ethan. I still remember doing an interview with him at the draft. I call it the Connor McDavid draft, and he was selected last in that draft by the Edmonton Oilers. He's a really good kid. I just don't think he was played properly down the stretch. I think he played way too many minutes because of guys being banged up in that series against the Winnipeg Jets. He can't play 27 minutes a game. Got to play 20. And he made some horrible errors in the playoffs, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that you can only play guys the right amount of time, and I think that they overplayed him. But he's moving on, and he'll be fine for Carolina. I thought that was a good move for the Edmonton Oilers. I think for the most part, Rod, we can sit here and overanalyze. I know the fan base, and you guys are talking about fan bases being almost toxic in some cases. I think it depends. Hang on a second. Where's the toxic device? I have it right here. I have the toxic device right here. I think that with the Edmonton Oilers, they've got a lot of good pieces in place. Now we're going to see whether Duncan Keith can step it up. There's a lot of interesting question marks going into the season. I kind of like what they did. I think they had to do something because staying with the same group wasn't really going to help. I think Darnell Nurse's situation is going to get solved pretty quick here. It sounded like in the Hyman media availability yesterday that both Darnell Nurse and Connor McDavid had a huge impact on him coming to Edmonton. They're training with him. And I would have to think that Darnell Nurse wasn't going to overextend himself to get Zach Hyman to come to Edmonton unless he himself sees good positive things for him moving forward. So I guess we're going to see. There's a lot of question marks. I heard all the experts yesterday talk about the positives and negatives. Yeah, there's some. But let's move forward and have some fun with it.
John Kirby in Edmonton says, I'm a little disappointed they traded Ethan Bear. That was a big shocker, but Bryn, you covered that. My thoughts are, I love Ethan. He's been in this studio. He's from here, but I think it was time for a change, and I think he's going to be 25 this year. He's not a kid anymore. So it's I just think it didn't work in Edmonton. And listen, I think that Braden Holtby would have been an amazing fit with the Edmonton Oilers. I've been saying, bring him home, Ken, for 2 years. But Ken Holland was a goalie, as you know. So I think that he knows what he's doing, believe it or not.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is that when you determined that you're going to bring Mike Smith back for 2 years at X amount of dollars, the secondary goaltender was going to have to come in at less dollars, and that eliminated a lot of guys yesterday. So I'm not sure if they're going to be able to offload the Koskinen contract on any other team, but I know one thing: whoever's going to be backing up Mike Smith is going to have to be making less than Mike Smith. That's just the way I see it.
To the CFL, and we can go around the league on this, Bryn, but Jax watching on YouTube. Jax is very surprised. He's watching on YouTube to hear Craig Dickinson doesn't have final say on the Rider team roster at the end of training camp. Jeremy O'Day and the team operations get that determination. That from a 3 Down Nation article. So we can talk about every team's different, right? But it does not surprise. Jeremy O'Day is running every aspect of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Believe you me. And if you don't believe me, you're barking up the wrong tree. However, John Frenzy, whom you would know well, John Lynch, predicted an Edmonton Elks Grey Cup championship. He did on the weekend. I put it on Twitter.
Really?
Beating the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the Grey Cup. Is there getting to be some, some elk fever, if that's a thing? Rutting season. Has it started in Edmonton yet?
From what I've heard, and that's a bad elk joke, I just seem to sense that there is a bit of an enthusiastic, positive surge with the name change. And everybody worried very, very much about how is it going to play out. We've talked numerous times about the fact that the missing demographic for the Canadian Football League was basically the 25 to 40-year-olds. They were going to have to step up now. Now that all the stuff with the XFL and the Rock is basically being put on the back burner, I don't think that's done. I think it's on the back burner for now. But it's time for that demographic to step up. And I think from what I'm hearing on ticket sales and the enthusiasm is that demographic is looking for something to go to have a beer at. And I think that they're going to do quite well off the field. Merchandising has been shockingly, they thought that there would be a surge in merchandising with the Elks, but I don't think they thought it was going to be as strong as it's been. It's been overwhelming, and that's great. So there's a lot of positives off the field. As for what we're going to see on the field, and for John to go out on a limb like that, that's pretty big. But when you try to break down this league and who's going to be coming out of the woodwork and who's going to be your champs, that's a crapshoot. I think I just don't know how anybody can handicap this race this year, having taken a year off. The other thing too, if I have 2 Achilles tendons that are quite healthy for a guy who's 61. I have no idea what's going on. Well, I don't have to tell people in Saskatchewan what's going on with Achilles tendons, but I really think that we're going to see some big surprises. I think it all depends on which quarterback gets out of the gate fast. I think we're also going to have to overanalyze a little bit to say which defenses are going to be stepping up. But how can anybody handicap the race right now around the league until at least after Labor Day? But as for the enthusiasm level here, I'm sensing that they're on a bit of a high here, and that's a good thing.
Well, you're right. It is saying a lot for John Lynch to pick Edmonton because he hates them with a passion. And it is too early to make any prediction. I don't want to make any predictions either, but that's... Lynch isn't afraid, as you know. William May, watching in Lloyd, says Edmonton Elks have been doing a great job of marketing their team. From James in Borden, Manitoba, says the Elks is starting to sound right. I think I like it more. I still think it should have been Elk. This isn't a service club, but whatever. They didn't consult me, Bryn.
Rod, before you go, I do struggle with Elks. I got to be honest. But the name part, I am not struggling with. Brian Kelly was on with us on The Outsiders a few weeks ago, and he said, I understand the change, the name change and everything, and I'm fully supportive of it. However, when we talk about the former football team, once an Eskimo, always an Eskimo, he said. So the name change thing, there's still a bit of a tug of war with a lot of people. But as for the plural part of it, I feel more comfortable talking about elk than elks. So I agree.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. Mandy in Edmonton has joined the party. She says every CFL team name ends with S. Well, so what, Mandy, if every team was jumping off the... What's the bridge in Edmonton?
Cliffs.
Transcona? The which?
Bridges.
Yeah.
The bridges, the cliffs. You're talking about the high level?
Well, whatever. If everybody was jumping off the bridge, is that a reason to do it? I think it's like the Jazz and the Heat and the Mammoth and the this and the that. I would have preferred Elk for that reason. But, we got some time here, but Mountain Tate's watching on YouTube writes in all caps, O'Day is the GM. That is literally O'Day's job, man. He's not in charge of popcorn sales. Well, that's why they call him the general manager. They generally manage everything. But how do you feel about that? He has said he has the last say on the final cuts. And I do think every team operates differently, but O'Day's ass is on the line. He should be allowed that latitude.
I would strongly suggest that any coach is going to have a discussion with everybody at the end of the day. And the GM is the guy that's bringing in the talent. So I would have to think that a good GM is going to sit there, give very strong impact. And I guess, where does the buck stop? It does stop with the general manager. But every good organization, there's always these meetings. You've been around long enough to know that a general manager is going to have a monstrous impact on the what you see on the field or what you see on the ice. So I'm not surprised to hear that. That wouldn't concern me in the slightest. I would fully suspect that a general manager or the director of player operations or whatever the title is going to be working with the coach, and somebody has to make the final decision. I think that the big guy, you hire the right people to make the call. And at the end of the day, if you have an issue, man, I hate that expression. When things come to the crunch, the general manager, if he's got a real issue with something, has got to at least say something to the head coach. There's got to be a consensus. I just don't think it's all going to be left up to the head coach. That's just the way I see it.
Jeff, the Stamps fan, says the choices on players should be collaborative. They are collaborative, but at the end of the day, sometimes you need a tiebreaker. Have we not all seen Moneyball? And that was a true story. I've been in those meetings. Somebody eventually has to stand up and pound the table and say, this is the way it is. And with the Saskatchewan Roughriders,
I totally
it's the GM. Yeah, do you not think Huff's doing that in Calgary over Dave Dickinson? I will guarantee he is.
Absolutely. And I've had the chance to work for both the Winnipeg Jets and the Edmonton Oilers, and I've been in meetings, as you have, and it's like trade deadline day. It's not just the general managers sitting down in that office and talking. The coach is in there. Frequently, the captain will be given a phone call or will be involved in those discussions. There's a lot of people that are part of the organization, but somebody's got to make the final call. A good general manager, I think most GMs get a 5-year reign. Most coaches get at least a 3-year reign. And at the end of the day, I did it again. The end of the day, I still believe that a good general manager wants to work with a coach, but a coach should have the final say in a lot of respects because it's his ass on the line, right?
Right. That's the thing. Speaking of cliches, we've run out of time, as always, far too soon. But can you give me yours?
Is this the end of the day?
Can you give me yours?
I can, Rod. It's great being on with you. I really appreciate being on with you. But you know what? I'm out of here.
That's how he always signs off. Where can people listen to The Outsiders, Bryn?
Just go to any of your favorite ear candy sites like Apple, Spotify, or Deezer, any of those things, and look up The Outsiders. Robin Brownlee and I do a podcast every Monday, except on the holiday long weekends, and we always have a lot of fun, and it's been great. And the listening audience just keeps growing, so we want to thank everybody for that and retweeting our message. And Rod, thanks. It's always great to be on with you. I love it.
Thank you, Bryn. Appreciate it, buddy. Have a good rest of the summer.
All right, Rod. See ya.
Bryn Griffiths, he's out of here from Edmonton.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.